I'm currently working on a briefish history of Batman Arkham Origins for that ongoing video series. Feel free to check those out after, if you haven't seen them yet. And by God, has one recurring thought stuck in my brain the entire time. I'm not even talking about the voices. Those haven't even recommended anything that violent recently. I'm talking about the thought that this game is genuinely due its time for some sort of modern port. Like, there are a lot of reasons this would be good, but especially how this game is becoming rapidly less and less accessible. If a newer gamer doesn't have access to hardware that can run 7th console generation games, they just miss out. Rocksteady's original 2 games got remastered a while ago, but they left Origins out, presumably so Warner Bros. Could have as cheap a project as possible for the easiest profit possible. This means many new fans of the series only get to experience 75% of the series. And that sucks. I'll even give you a peek behind the curtain here for Baneshake too. Recording on PS3 is something I have sufficient capabilities to do nowadays, but it does take extra steps. Unlike PS4 or PS5, which have built-in gameplay recording, you need additional equipment for earlier consoles, and doing it that way lacks the efficiency of built-in recording, meaning file sizes get very big very fast. Recording the main story, side missions, and challenge maps just for Batman, I'm still recording the add-on stuff, had me casually filling up about 1.5 terabytes in my external storage drive. Fun fact, this is the reason that back when I started doing a briefish history with the original 2007 Assassin's Creed, that I linked to someone else's footage. I had the capture card, but my only storage device at the time was far too puny back then, and that game is also the only main Ass Creed lacking a newer port to be played on PS4 or later. Back to the point at hand, for today, here's like 10 things I would want to see in an Arkham Origins remake. Technically, I don't really care what they consider the port. Remake, remaster, redux, Jokerized edition, doesn't matter. Just 10 things thereabout that I want when you inevitably re-release the game, Warner Bros. Don't make me start listening to the voices, Warner Bros. Number 10. Obviously the bits about fixing graphics and performance. I'm starting with the obvious because some smartass will undoubtedly try to take me to task over dumb stuff if I don't cover it thoroughly or correctly or something. Although, for Christ's sake, some jackass tried to call me wrong in my Arkham City video for not considering a fan theory he likes most, which has zero textual evidence in the game. I already dealt with that in my last video, link somewhere. So if I'm being honest, the smartass thing is going to happen regardless of what I do. But I digress. Despite being the obvious answer, this is the biggest reason I would want this port behind just the aforementioned accessibility. The overall game world ends up being the grayest of the series, and it is only somewhat due to the artistic choices. A new lighting system in tandem with some polished up textures could really do wonders for Origins. The performance was also noticeably the worst of the PS3 Arkham games. It never got catastrophic, at least for me, but that pop-in sure does pop in on a delay. And I can literally predict which parts of the game are going to suffer the lowest frame rates. One district's crime in particular practically always does it, as does the final free-flow combat encounter in the story mode, which really undoes the climactic crescendo it should have. So make it look nice, and make it run nice, and really I'm 99% of the way on board. Number 9. Dear God, fix the fire effects. Okay, technically this part falls under the umbrella of the last point, but it's so bad I have to call it out. The flames, of which there are many present, suck ass. In 2013, I had to turn to my college roommate Wes to roast these flames when I first saw them. This fire looked bad compared to the other graphics on a console notorious for making everything in the first half of its lifespan look colorless and jagged. We were already used to seeing the gaming equivalent of Zack Snyder's Edward Scissorhands back then, and the fire still couldn't clear the lofty heights of the massive pothole your local city council refuses to fix in front of the library because its Republicans heard on good authority that reading books turns kids into trans furries these days. Jesus Christ. If I saw this inferno coming at me, I wouldn't even move out of the way. I am 3-dimensional, and I'm pretty sure that fire needs to move up a couple dimensions to actually become a threat. You look at that shit and tell me it's not the Jared Leto of exothermic reactions. Huh, that somehow is an improvement. Number 8. Include Blackgate but make the combat normal. Sometimes remasters will also include spin-off tie-in games, like Assassin's Creed 3's remaster including Liberation for all 11 people who wanted to play Liberation. Arkham Origins had one such game, Arkham Origins Blackgate, which was originally on 3DS and Vita but received a console port later too. Blackgate is, not my favorite game, though I've certainly played worse these days. It's sort of the Assassin's Creed Chronicles of the Arkham games. I would want to include it for the same accessibility reasons, but more so that they could bring the combat up to par. It is bafflingly bare bones. I remember first seeing the trailer when they announced it, and I thought, cool, it'll play like the Freight Train challenge map from Arkham City. It did not. I want you to imagine the least amount of combat mechanics you could keep and still be able to call it free-flow combat. Good job, you still just imagined a better combat system than Blackgate. There aren't even takedowns, making the combo multiplier nearly obsolete. If they would just include the normal mechanics, it would make the whole game a bit more tolerable. I don't think there are many other things that could possibly help Blackgate other than just overhauling the damn thing. So there you go, my token Blackgate entry for all 4 of you Blackgate fans. Number 7, fix the broken Dark Knight system. The Dark Knight system is genuinely the worst mechanic in Origins. I won't get too into the weeds, since I'm doing a deep dive in A Briefish History soon, but basically there are challenge ladders you have to complete in the game world, but you have to do them in order, where later challenges don't keep track of progress until you get to them, and several challenges are bugged, and there are suffocatingly finite opportunities in the game to complete several of them. This would require multiple steps to fix, but it would be worth the work because of how much it would improve the game. Step 1 would be adding places where Predator stealth encounters repopulate when you return. Maybe they could just reuse rooms from story rooms once you're done with them in the story, like Arkham City did with the train station, to be able to complete these challenges. Or maybe they could add a single indoor environment with all takedown opportunities, which resets every X amount of time you complete it, somewhere in the game world. Step 2 would be fixing the district crimes that don't generate in a few places by the time you actually get to the tier of completing district crimes. They're clearly supposed to, and they're just bugged. Step 3, I would even go so far as to remove the linear nature. Some challenges will still be contingent on earlier challenges or certain upgrades, so a player still won't be able to do them all at once. Finally, fix the reward costume. For some stupid oversight reason, your shiny new reward batsuit has taken the same damage as the main suit instead of being distinct suits. So by the time you've actually forced yourself through the most obstinate and unwieldy gameplay system in the Arkham series, you could have used scratched up costume as consolation. Just make it shiny and pristine, por favor. Number 6, Robin and Joker for the challenge maps. City and Night have 4 and 8 playable characters for the challenge maps, respectively, so Origins' roster of 3, where 2 of them are Bruce, comes across a bit small for a modern release with modern expectations. Thankfully, there are at least a couple other characters that could work as additions. First, Robin. He was already in the multiplayer with all of the gadgets from City, but in a very sharp-looking default outfit. Sure, he was technically just Dick with Tim's moveset, but I can live with that redundancy for more playable characters here. The other is Joker. He is briefly playable in his own flashback scene in the story, and data miners from years ago, whose video I halfway remember and cannot locate again, thanks internet, poked around, and it appears the devs may have even been playing around with including him for the challenge maps before being cut for development timing. Between his razor cards as a Batarang-esque projectile in his playable segment, and gadgets from Asylum, his one-bullet gun, which I'm realizing can be interpreted as an edgy joke, his chattering bomb teeth, and his X-ray specs, which could just be moved onto the detective mode button like normal characters, and we would already be halfway into a realized playable character. Challenge maps are already semi-non-canon, so why not give him a grappling hook this time? You can put a boxing glove on it, and he can punch people from far away, too. That's a whole new gadget for free. Or maybe even a little giggling bag to lure enemies to a particular location. That's another one! See, no reason not to include him. I'm actually going to include a third proposed playable character, Electrocutioner. I would give him infinite electric gloves and 0 other gadgets, and make him go down from one hit. I would never stop playing Arkham Origins if they included a playable Electrocutioner. Number 5, a more open skill tree. This is a pretty easy entry, just make the upgrade skill tree more open, like it was in Arkham City, instead of how linear it is in Origins. Origins simply doesn't let you mix up when you have certain upgrades, so replaying feels a little more arbitrarily restricted. Now that I'm real good at these games, I like to try doing things like putting off health upgrades as long as possible to get all the combat upgrades first. Unfortunately, I can't do that here. I have to get the armor first, while I'm infuriatingly stuck with a ×8 combo takedown requirement. Can't even use critical hits, those are locked off until Shiva's side mission. I am impatient. I want to break people's legs now. So this would be pretty straightforward. Make the upgrades just available on a wide page, like it was in City, and take them off of the side missions that are offering them as a completion reward. There are way more experience point opportunities available in the story and side content than there are things to unlock. So I halfway suspect this was originally supposed to be the plan until someone decided to change it up. Probably the same developer who came up with the Dark Knight system. Fuck that hypothetical guy who probably doesn't even exist, it was probably multiple people. Am I right? Number 4, Alfred Full Frontal Nudity. This one is non-negotiable. Number 4, but the real entry, improved multiplayer. Arkham Origins used to have a multiplayer mode before they shut it down, and while it wasn't bad and certainly had its fans, it also wasn't quite right to hook me in for more. It's pretty common for multiplayer to go mysteriously missing from the remaster. Ah shit, I've had a running gag containment leak. Everyone, you need to get out now before it gets to you too! Ahem. It's pretty common for multiplayer to be left out of a remaster, but if it ended up a remake anyway, there are a few changes that could make it work more to my liking without sacrificing the core concept. Essentially, there are 2 teams of thugs fighting each other, Jokers and Banes respectively, while Batman and Robin are stealthily taking them down. Eventually, one thug on each side can swap out for Joker or Bane until they get taken down while playing as said villains. A villain team had to complete certain objectives to win, or Batman and Robin could take down sufficient numbers and they'd win. The reason I didn't play a ton is that the balance just felt a bit off. The biggest dislike I had was that thugs basically had detective mode too, which is overpowered when one party depends on sneaking around to not get shot in the face. I'd propose 2 primary things. Limit thug scanners a bit more, where instead of detective mode, they have the goggles from single player where you can scan a single hiding spot for a few seconds to search for Batman. That way, they have something of a defense without invalidating the hero's playstyle. I would also switch the thugs, but not Joker and Bane, to first person, both to limit the field of view just a little bit, as one final balance for the stealth characters, and just because getting hunted by Batman in first person sounds fucking dope. Joker and Bane I would not nerf or change, they can keep the third person camera, and I think it's better that they stay a little bit overpowered so it's worth going and trying to be them. In fact, and this is probably broader than just a remake of the single player, sue me, if they just remade the multiplayer mode as its own thing with these changes, it could be cool with some expansions. Instead of just Batman and Robin, include some other playable characters as options for one of the 2 heroes. Expand villain teams to include people like Two-Face, Harley, Black Mask, and let people assigned to villain teams vote for which villain gang they want to be. There you go, WB. You can get 2 remakes off the ground from this one old game you keep trying to ignore. You can't afford to not do something. Number 3, let Deathstroke be lethal. When Deathstroke was announced as a playable character, there was a lot of speculation how his sword would work in free flow, or what guns or grenades might be like in use. Then, the playable version had nothing but non-lethal weapons and gadgets. Now don't get me wrong, Deathstroke does have great skill with a staff and could absolutely be hired to non-lethally neutralize a bunch of people. And since the challenge maps are training VR for Batman in-game, it could even be that he's just studying Slade's skills that he's willing to utilize. But counterpoint, his name isn't Alive and Well Stroke. I suspect they were trying not to trigger the ESRB into giving them an M rating, but that's not really the end of the world. 1. If they limit how graphic the sword violence is and keep it relatively bloodless and goreless, it would probably not change anything. The ninjas already use swords bloodlessly on us, and if City can show us a dude getting impaled with a spreading bloodstain and surprisingly intact cloth and keep the rating, I feel like Deathstroke doing some fast, less bloody than that slashes would be acceptable for a T rating. Or imagine if he had a single frag grenade instead of his disorientation grenade or whatever they called it. I am too lazy to look it up right now. If you get spotted in a stealth room, instead of throwing down what is basically just a marginally altered smoke grenade, he just chucks a real grenade at the person who spotted him and they die mysteriously intact from the explosion. That would be hilarious, and no more graphic than anything in Uncharted. Of course, even if it did get things bumped up to an M rating, that's not that big of a deal today compared to 2013. Arkham Knight ended up being M, which didn't hinder that game's success in the slightest. We've also seen Telltale's Batman games being hard M's with graphic violence, and there have been quite a few R-rated DC movies in the interim too. DC has stopped being so concerned about scarring general audiences since then. Now, I'm not saying to get rid of the current build, since it's already there and an estimated tens of people will still want to use it or try it out. Just make a little menu toggle when you're picking Deathstroke that lets you switch between the original and the vastly improved options. Number 2. New costumes and let costumes be used in the story. Now, I am a slut for alternate costumes, and Origins has some solid picks already, with several available to unlock in the game by default instead of just being bonus costume packs for sale. The game is weird about not letting you use them until the story is beaten for the first time, which is dumb. Fix that, that needs to be fixed. But I am greedy, and I want more. Technically, there are a few costumes not available now if you didn't access them back in the day, so for one, this remaster could save those from the risk of oblivion. Additionally, it would be cool to see Batman get his looks from the other Arkham games. Technically, you could propose endless Batman costumes all day, since he's had a lot of looks over the years, but I'd rather talk about options for the other characters. Deathstroke's Injustice and comics looks are still nice, though it's hard to beat his default look here, which is peak Deathstroke design. Still, there's some options in-game that would be cool. Unmasked Slade, from after Batman punched his helmet off during the boss fight, would be welcome, and even his Blackgate jumpsuit from the end of the game would be fun, at the very least for the prison-based challenge maps. He wasn't in Batman the Animated Series, but his Teen Titans look would work as an animated-style costume like Arkham City had. And yes, he too has had a lot of looks over the years. Like Batman, plenty of those would be nice. Ninja Bruce only gets his ninja robes and Dilf beard, or his prototype vigilante getup from before a stray bat broke in and reminded him, oh yeah, my mortal fear, that could be effective. It's not bad, but we can squeeze more out of him. Giga Chad Bruce in what is basically workout clothes from the start is an option. I would really love to see Bruce Wayne in a suit as a choice. My favorite thing in Arkham City Lockdown is seeing Bruce Wayne do this to a thug, and I feel like that would scratch that itch similarly. His Batman Begins, Obi-Wan Kenobi-ass League of Shadows training robes, or the Burn Down the Dojo black version would both look sharp AF. If they wanted to get a bit meta with it, Batman Ninja was a whole thing one time, and putting that bat suit on this Bruce instead of normal Batman would be amusing. Let's say we did also get Robin and Joker for the challenge maps. Robin has a decent suite of costumes already, so I'll focus on Joker. This game alone has several choices. His default look, his Red Hood origin look, his imposter look, and the related unmasked white suit too. There's also his pinstriped asylum look, and the same look but disheveled and sickly from City. If they want to make people online angry, which I always support, they could include Twink Joker of the Multiverse from Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Finally, and this one would be exactly my kind of stupid that I love so much, Titan Joker. Just make him little. His animations would look all out of whack and his claws would clip through all of his gadgets. I would love it so much. Number 1, Boss Rush Mode as a challenge map? Finally, in what would be genuinely new content, I want a Boss Rush Mode. Origins, memetically, has the best boss fights overall in the series. Which is true, it does. And some sort of boss rush where you have to beat them all on the same health bar would really make you feel like the Batman. Now, I wouldn't want to just jump from scene to scene for it. I would want to see this as a custom challenge map. First, design an area big enough but dynamic enough to meet all of their gameplay needs. There would have to be several walls and a couple of layers, at least for a stealth portion, but with a wide open place for the melee fights and Firefly flying around. So I'd propose a wide symmetrical layout with walkways that just go around the perimeter, either circular or square. The former would be more distinctive, but the latter could give some natural corners to hide behind up on the walkways, and have it open air in the middle. There's also an imbalance of free flow bosses, most of them 2 stealth bosses, like 2 of them, so I would make the villains who lack dedicated boss fight mechanics, such as Joker, Black Mask, Bird even, make them brief stealth interludes. They can just act like they're thugs, but give the thugs supporting them different specialties. Like maybe Joker's thugs could be more mind-focused, whereas Black Mask's could have more armored thugs, something like that. Alternate between stealth and combat, maybe even making it a semi-random order, but have everything happening pretty quickly so the player has to adjust on the fly. Boom, Croc's in, throwing fuel tanks from over in the corner, do one phase of his fight, but boom, now Deathstroke's ambushing you, do one phase of his fight. Boom, Deadshot and his thugs are filling the room from the other side, take cover. Boom, Bane's in. Boom, now he's on TN1, etc. Obviously, save the hardest encounters, like TN1 Bane or Shiva's initiation add-on boss fight, for the end, even if it is semi-random. Now, of course, with both stealth and combat, normal scoring from timing or points won't work quite as well for the 3 medals, so I would recommend basing them on how much health Batman has left. I'd say first medal at, 25% remaining, 2 at 50%, and then 3 at something relatively high like 85% or even 90%. I would not assign it to 100% because that would be bullshit. Sure, this would take a deft hand at balancing correctly, but Arkham Origins was already smart enough to figure out the boss mechanics in the first place, so I think it's doable. There you go, that's 10, or 11, or 9. It genuinely depends just how flexible you're defining each entry like I was. See, I figured I'd try 10 exactly, and we'll see if YouTube, likes that number specifically for more successful reach. You know what else helps? Liking, commenting, subscribing, and the bell icon. You definitely want those last 2 so you can catch a briefish history of Arkham Origins once that one is done. In the meantime, I've got lots of other content here you may be interested in. More Arkham stuff, obviously, Assassin's Creed, some LEGO titles, lots of random one-offs. I'd love it if you'd click around and check out some other videos if you enjoyed my style. I hope you'll be back again next time. Don't make me start listening to the voices, viewer.